Well, welcome. My name is Daniel Olson. I'm a training and program advisor here at the Construction Safety Association of Manitoba. I'm joined with Shelby Haradaway. We're going to be walking through our harmonized audit tool lunch and learn with everybody. We'll be paying attention to the chat as best as possible, but probably closer to the end, we'll double check and make sure that we've answered all the questions. But go ahead and put it into the chat when you think of it, if you don't mind. Okay. And so let's get started here. So first and foremost, there's a couple key changes to the audit that we're going to be running through. There's a new element, a new section that's been added. We're titling that Procurement and Contractor Management. And then there's been some updates to the training requirements, the mandatory training requirements here. Okay, it's a little background information on all of this. Way back in 2000, there was an agreement reached amongst the Canadian Federation of Construction Safety Association members to establish a national COR accreditation program. A memorandum of understanding was created and signed with the plan to review this program every 5 years to ensure relevancy. The COR program and the understanding were updated in 2005 and 2010. And CSAM, we've been trying to continue to maintain that program for our members here in Manitoba. Continuous improvement is something that we're really focused on. At the 2020 CFCSA AGM, an update to the COR accreditation standard was necessary to ensure that the standard remains relevant and meets the needs of our industry, providing it provides value to our members across Canada. And then the national COR accreditation standard was then approved in 2021. So the purpose of the accreditation standard was basically just to align across the country. While this new national COR accreditation standard can be met by CSAM's previous audit instrument, we wanted to align the audit tool across Canada. Okay, so the main goal was to ensure that the audit would become consistent across provinces and territories to help members achieve and maintain COR and make reciprocity across Canada as simple as possible. So a committee comprised of members from all of the CFCSA members, so that's again, Canadian Federation for Construction Safety Associations. Members met and agreed upon the audit instrument, including questions, verification techniques, guidelines, observation, and interview questions. 11 of the 13 members of the CFCSA intend to use the same audit instrument to verify COR certification in their province and or territory. Alberta and Ontario intend to utilize a separate audit instrument to verify their COR certification in those particular provinces. Okay. The two key changes from the national accreditation standard that directly affect the audit are the new required elements. So we're going to talk about that, procurement and contractor management, and then an update to the required training competencies. So we will be dropping train the trainer, and that's kind of been the case for the last few months now. Train the trainer will no longer be a required or mandatory course. We will be replacing that with hazard identification and risk control. For those companies that are already COR certified, we will be grandfathering you into this process. But moving forward with new companies coming through our doors, they will be expected to take principles of safety management, safety auditor, leadership of safety for safety excellence, then hazard identification and risk control. For those SECOR companies coming through our doors, the requirement is still, you don't have to take the leadership for safety excellence course. Okay, now let's walk through some things here. So most of the new requirements are already covered in the 2021 audit, but like I said, we've reworded it to kind of align with the other provinces and territories here in Canada. There are 14 sections plus the Manitoba supplement. So there are 15 sections in total in the COR audit. The COR audit will be out of 400 points now, and a SECOR audit will be out of 300 points. The general processes here have not changed. We're still evaluating companies through documentation, observation, interview. In terms of achieving COR certification or SECOR, it's still a self-audit, internal, and then an independent auditor. All that has not changed. Okay. We currently have the 2022 audit instrument available. It's on our website as well. We'll take a look at that at the end of the conversation here. An online audit tool will be available January 2nd, 2023. It's not currently available at this point in time. We've already updated that training requirement, like I mentioned earlier. Train the Trainer has been dropped as a mandatory course, and we are looking to have hazard identification and risk control as the 4th mandatory. We will be allowing companies to use both tools for 2023 till November 1st, 2023. We would obviously encourage you to take a look at the 2022 version, the new audit instrument. We're going to call it the harmonized audit. We will be accepting both audits until November 1st, 2023, at which point in time we will only be accepting the new audit. Again, processes surrounding the audits are going to be remaining the same. Okay. Those processes, maintenance years, just as a bit of a reminder for everybody, maintenance years 2, 3, 5, 6, so on and so forth into perpetuity. Supporting documentation is no longer required for those years, for those maintenance years. We still will be coming out for observations as well as interviews. Okay. Yeah, we'll basically be reviewing the checklist, the audit instrument that comes in. You'll still be supplying us with whether or not you are meeting the standard. And then we will be coming out and doing observations and interviews at minimum at one job site. If there's inconsistencies with what you say you're doing and what we see on site, then there is a potential for a spot audit to take place, but that'll be handled on a case-by-case basis, basically. Okay. Recertification years, supporting documentation is still required. So that is a full audit. So that's documentation, supporting documentation submitted to CSAM, whether that's hard copy or with the online tool. It's completely up to you. Okay. Now, a quick look at the scoring for, or some differences in the scoring. We're not going to go through every single line here, but there's a few changes, obviously, in terms of the amount of score weighting for each section. The reason for this was the committee that's putting this together through the CFCSA. They figured out which sections require more weight. And so there was a bit of a process to figure out exactly how we wanted to score each section. Okay. Now that's reflected in our core executive summary sheet here. Very, very similar. You can see the possible score column. Your actual score will go in the middle there, and then there's the minimum standard right there. We're still looking for an 80% overall and a 50% in each section for you to be passing your COR or your SECOR audit. We'll be looking for a senior management signature, worker safety rep, or worker committee co-chair signature, as well as the auditor themselves. Okay. The safety culture assessment is still a part of this as well. You can see that the safety culture assessment does sit outside of the COR score. It does not affect your COR score by any means. It is an additional checklist that we will be we'll still be using. Okay. So let's walk through the sections here. We've got we're limited on time here. So section number 1, safety and health policy. Realistically, sections 1 through 13, there hasn't been much changed in terms of the information being provided. The questions themselves have been reworded, so you're going to want to pay attention to how those questions are worded. The guidelines themselves have been reworded, as well as the observation checklist and the interview questions. But in essence, we're still looking for very, very similar content. Okay, especially here for safety policy. We're looking for the policy, just like with the previous audit, as well as an outline of the responsibilities for the different stakeholders within your business. Okay, are these changes for next year's audits? Our audit. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier there, for 2023 up until November 1st, Marley, You can use the older audit instrument or this new audit up until November 1st, 2023. After that point in time, we are going to be expecting the new audit instrument. Okay. Section 2, hazard assessment analysis and control. Again, they're looking for very similar content, just slightly different wording for things. One change that we do have here is this question 2.5, our design and layout of the work area, ergonomics, machinery, and processes considered in the assessment. Our guideline is reading documented hazard assessments must include consideration of design and layout of the work area, ergonomics, machinery, or processes to award points for this section. This risk of musculoskeletal injury and appropriate prevention control. So safe job procedures, tailored work schedules, personal protective equipment, power mobile equipment. Those would all be examples of proof that you are doing this particular thing. In essence, this question is asking, are you identifying musculoskeletal injuries within your workplace? And then again, what are you doing about them? Okay. Second half here, are the personnel competent to participate in the hazard assessment process? This is another newer question. This question is asking for training. We want to see training in terms of this hazard assessment process. That is reflected in the mandatory course as well, so that hazard identification course. In addition to that, a lot of that information is covered within our Leadership for Safety Excellence, and even in our committee and safety rep courses, we cover off hazard assessments, but realistically, we are looking for that hazard identification and risk control course for this particular portion. That being said, if you have an internal process to make sure that your staff understand exactly your expectations, any kind of internal training is going to be accepted for this as well. Okay. Another difference for section 2 here would be the old question 210 asking about contractors, specifically evaluating what are your criteria for evaluating, selecting, and then monitoring the contractors that you're hiring to perform work for you. And then in addition to that, proof that you are actually following through with your expectations. So that question is no longer in section 2. We will find that later on in the new section, section 14, procurement and contractor management. Okay. I feel like I missed a question here. One second. Yeah, Monica. Yeah, so you will be able to use that previous year's audit for sure. Okay, as long as you're submitting prior to November 1st, 2023. Okay. Okay, sections 3 and 4, very little change. We're still looking for safe work practices and safe job procedures. So in terms of safe work practices here, you'll notice that there's actually an interview question on top of this 3.5 question. So have both management and workers participated in the development review of these practices? So we are looking for proof, toolbox talk, safety meetings, so on and so forth, where safe work practices are the topic of discussion. And then you'll notice that this is an or question where we will be asking your staff, is this taking place within your business, right? So can you give me an example of how safe work practices have been reviewed or discussed? We talk about them in toolbox talks, we talk about them in health and safety committee meetings, so on and so forth. Okay. Section 4, again, safe job procedures, nothing's changed real here. We have combined the safe jobs question, safe job procedures question, as well as the critical tasks question into one. So you'll notice that here in question 4.1, do the safe job procedures accurately reflect the employer's current work activities, including high risk or critical tasks? So we are looking for a list of the procedures that you perform within your workplace. Specifically, we're kind of concerned with the critical task or the high risk tasks, okay? And then again, 4.5, have both management and workers participated in the development and review of these procedures? You'll notice this is an and question. We're looking for both documentation to prove again, within toolboxes or committee meeting minutes, so on and so forth, as well as that your staff understand that these things are reviewed, revised, developed, and communicated to the people that they apply to. Okay. Elaine, what if we don't have contractors? We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to section 14. All right. Section 5, again, same, company safety rules. A bit of a difference on this one is some of you may have remember we used to ask for disciplinary action records, and then we made a change where we no longer asked for documentation in terms of disciplinary action records, or that you'll notice it down there, 5.6, are all rules applied, enforced consistently with all personnel. This is, again, a documentation question where we're looking for proof that you're following through with your disciplinary action process, or that you even have a process at all. This is an or question, so we will be making sure that your staff are familiar with what that process is in terms of your policy or your expectations. Do you have 3 strikes, 4 steps, 0 tolerance, safety absolutes, whatever your system might be? We would be looking to make sure that your staff understand what the expectations are. Okay. I want to just make sure I'm covering all of this. Question 5.1, are the rules clearly stated in writing? That was the old question, 5.1. Now we have, does the policy, procedure, or guideline include responsibilities for setting, implementing, and complying with company rules? Very, very similar question. It's just been reworded a little bit. Another difference that I want to make sure everybody's aware of as well, 5.2 here, are both company and project work location specific rules available? In the event that you are working underneath a prime contractor, or you are working on a construction project site and your clients have established very site specific rules, we would be looking for examples of those situations. Okay. In the event that you're not working for primes, or you're not hiring subs, or your clients do not have site specific rules for you, obviously your general rules are going to be pretty similar from site to site to site. We would just want that reflected within your policy a little bit. Okay. What do we have here? Oh, thanks, Alan. 5.5, what if disciplinary action has never had to be implemented? We would want to see a system that you have in place, right? So in the event that Jerry makes a mistake, this is the process that you would follow. Yeah, that was a question previously, and one of the reasons why we ended up changing it in the first place. But we're bringing it back again to align with the other members of the CFCSA. But we would be looking for proof that you have a system in place in the event of. And then you'll also notice that it is an or question. So even if you do not have any documentation to go along with this, as long as your staff is very familiar, the majority of your staff is very familiar with the expectations, there shouldn't be really any problem with that. Okay. All right. There we go. So a document like this could be used for that disciplinary action notice. Again, there's going to be a few examples that we pop up onto the screen here for you, and those things will be reflected on the website. Very, very similar as before under our training resources tab. We're going to have examples of all the things that we're looking for. Okay. Now, section 6. Nothing, title hasn't changed, personal protective equipment. What do we have here? We've added a bit of an interview question for 6.1 here. So the question, 6.1, are activities requiring personal protective equipment documented, and is specific criteria used to select appropriate personal protective equipment for those activities? Okay, this was previously like a policy question. We're still looking for your expectations in terms of what it is that your staff are expected to be using. Just more so, more information on establishing the criteria for maybe specialized personal protective equipment as well. Okay, and that's reflected in the interview question here. How do you know what personal protective equipment is required to perform a specific task? Well, during my orientation with this particular organization, we went through policies, right? Particularly our personal protective equipment policy. It's a lot of P's. And that's outlining exactly what it is that we need to be wearing on all of our job sites. And then based off of risk assessments, based off of controlled products, based off of site rules from a prime contractor or a client, we have to wear additional personal protective equipment, right? Realistically, you are going to set your expectations. We're going to take a look at those expectations and then look for proof that you're following through with them, right? Next up here, we have this question 6 is a little different. Is there a system in place to regularly inspect and maintain personal protective equipment? The guideline just adds a little bit more information here. So basic personal protective equipment inspections and maintenance may be conducted and recorded as part of a safety meeting or be included as an item on the company's inspection checklist. Specialized personal protective equipment inspections will require verification of pre-use inspection and compliance with manufacturer's recommendations. Again, I would recommend that you're inventorying the personal protective equipment that you have your staff wearing, specifically any kind of manual from the manufacturer that might indicate how often inspections need to be taking place. Okay, you can simplify those operation manuals for that PPE within a policy, right? Make it very, very easy for your staff to know exactly where to look to find out exactly how often something needs to be checked up on. So award 2 points based on supplied documentation that verifies regular inspection of maintenance of personal protective equipment. Again, you're going to tell us what regular inspection means. Award 2 points based on the observation of personal protective equipment should be well maintained in serviceable condition and meet regulatory standards. So we're just going to spend a little bit more time during observations to make sure that personal protective equipment is going to function as intended. It's appropriate for the work that's taking place. Okay. Okay. What about small items like gloves, wear until worn and requiring replacement? Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to be sifting through your garbage or anything to make sure that you're throwing stuff away too early or too late or anything like that. In terms of documentation, that's going to be outlined within your policy, exactly what those expectations are. If we ever really had questions about the gloves that are being used on site, I suppose receipts from purchase are a good idea. Obviously, when you're purchasing this stuff on a regular basis, that means that you have regular access to it. Do you have to have a checklist for your gloves by any means? No. That could be a conversation within a toolbox talk for sure. Very similar to like a steel toe boots, right? If your steel toe boots, the sole's flopping around like a puppet, probably not a great idea. So make sure that your staff is very aware that when the equipment that they're using on a regular basis is damaged to the point where they shouldn't be using it anymore, we just want to make sure that those conversations are happening. Okay. All right. Section 7, preventative maintenance. Okay. This one's a little interesting for the SECOR companies. So 7.1, this was not a SECOR question before. Now it is. It was just a core question. 7.1, is there an inventory of items to be maintained? So SECOR companies, we will be looking, and well, core companies are already familiar with this, but SECOR companies will be looking for a list of items that you want to maintain. We're not looking for every nut, bolt, screwdriver, or hammer by any means. I would be thinking about items, equipment, that if it were to walk away one day and you'd be upset about it, well, let's keep track of it. Let's outline who should be inspecting it, how, as well as outlining the frequency of those particular inspections. Okay. Cool. 7.3 are records maintained that include a description of corrective actions taken. Guidelines have kind of, the language has changed a little bit. Documented records should include a description of corrective actions taken when a deficiency or maintenance requirement has been identified through the inspection. So service record, lockout, tagout, repair invoicing, internal work order, if that's how you're maintaining equipment. Okay, so we're going to award 2 points based on documentation to verify corrective actions have been completed, and then award 2 points based on observations confirming that documented corrective actions have been completed. So we will be looking for records on site. That is going to obviously depend on how you're organizing your documentation. There will be information that's kept on site with the equipment that you're using. But we may be looking at that within the office, or there may be situations where you're keeping track of it within an online organization system, management system. However it is that you're organizing this information, we will be taking a look at those corrective actions, those documented corrective actions. Okay. Now, what do we got here? 7.4, does a qualified or competent person perform the inspection and maintenance? Okay, the guideline here, documented records should indicate that equipment is being maintained by recognized service facilities. Training records or other documentation should support qualifications and prove competency of in-house maintenance personnel. We're going to verify through interviews how the individuals that perform maintenance are competent to do that type of work. So if you do not do any internal maintenance on any of your equipment, you're using third parties, the receipts from those interactions are going to be used to help prove that qualified, competent individuals are maintaining your equipment. If you have internal staff that are fixing stuff for you, we would be looking for training records for those individuals. Off the top of my head, red seal diesel mechanic or something like that. It may be a situation where manufacturers of the equipment that you are using have some sort of qualification process or competency process that you might be using. We'll probably have a few questions about that. Obviously, we're not going to be familiar with every single product or equipment that exists out there, but we would be looking for who's fixing stuff and why are you letting them fix stuff? Are they trained? Are they a certified service provider? So on and so forth. Okay. Just as a side note as well, 7.5 here is now an OR question. So does the preventative maintenance program of facilities, tools, equipment, and vehicles include a system that effectively removes defective tools, equipment, and vehicles from service? So we'd be looking for, again, proof that this is taking place, lockout, tagout processes, internal work order systems. How are we making sure that stuff that's not working good is not being used, right? Until it's working good. Okay, and then again, this is an interview process. We want to make sure that your staff are very much aware that if something's not functioning as intended, we want to find another way to manage whatever it is that we were trying to accomplish with that particular piece of equipment until the equipment is going to work properly. Okay, lockout, tagout process, really. Okay, just going to double check my chat here. I think we're cool. All right. Section 8, training and communication. This has become a fairly large section. What do we got here? So for 8.1, is there a method for the selection of safety and health training of employees? Okay, so the guideline here, the policy, procedure, or guideline includes a method for selecting training of employees. Examples include legislative training requirements, manufacturers training requirements, job-specific and high-risk activities, identifying competencies for each task and or role, and identifying effectiveness of training. We're going to award 2 points based on documentation, award 2 points based on the majority of positive interview responses. This is your policy. This is your training policy. You may need to add additional information just surrounding this idea of how is it that you're selecting the training that you are selecting, okay? Do you have to go through some sort of specific third party? Are you going through CSAM? Are we doing something internal? Okay, so your policy probably already meets this requirement, outlining how you are delivering the training. There may be some additional information that you need to add into that policy, just about how you're selecting that training. Okay, it's going to be based off of the jobs that you're asking your staff to do. Okay. And now that I see it, I'm gonna take a look at the Q&A thing. Are we giving out the copy of the presentation? Oh, we are going to be we're recording this, Gary, so we're going to actually have this up on YouTube for you to take a look at a later date. Same thing for Monica there. What if the company does not perform critical tasks? Okay, you're going to tell me that, Janelle. We don't know what every single one of our members deals with on a regular basis, so you're going to outline exactly what it is that you're dealing with within your organization. Okay. Has anything changed for out-of-province contractors obtaining COR reciprocity in Manitoba? Well, for Corey, so the intent of the harmonizing of this entire audit system, and Manitoba obviously taking kind of the lead on it, is to make it as easy as possible for companies out of province to get reciprocity as quickly and as easily as possible here in Manitoba. So 11 out of the 13 CFCSA organizations members are taking part in this. So it's likely that companies out of province coming to Manitoba are going to have an easier time obtaining reciprocity. Okay. Get rid of that. Okay. 8.3, have appropriate individuals been trained in legislated requirements? So what training have you received in your legislated requirements? Supervisors, safety reps, what kind of legal duties do you have underneath the Act? Prime contractors, if you're a prime contractor, do you understand your legal requirements? Okay. Next one over here. Let me just double check. Questions 811 is kind of the big one. So 811, do workers attend or participate in safety and health meetings? Right. So pay attention to the guidelines on this one. It's a little interesting. So as per company policy statement, procedures and/or guidelines, safety and health meetings are meant to be a regular outlet for related discussion. This question considers toolbox talk meetings, tailgate meetings, or monthly safety meetings, but does not include safety and health committee meetings or yearly startup meetings. There are other questions asking for committee meetings, meeting minutes, and in terms of aligning with other provinces and territories, this was found just not to be a requirement for this particular question. It is handled within other sections though. Okay, so for 811, we're looking for toolbox talk meetings, right? We are not looking for committee meeting minutes. Okay. And then the last two questions, in terms of documentation questions here, asking for very similar information as the previous audit. Do workers attend, or workers attend? Do we hold safety meetings? And then our safety meetings held regularly and documented as per legislation. So we want to make sure that this is consistently taking place. Okay. All right. Section 9, we've got a bit of a change on this one, a decent change on this one. So for inspections, we're talking workplace inspections generally, but we're also going to be looking for pre-use inspections for equipment. So it's a little bit of a buildup from Section 7, preventative maintenance, but we will also be looking for pre-use inspections for equipment for Section 9. Okay, so 9.2. Are specific methods, forms, or checklists used to identify deficiencies for workplace inspections? Guideline reads, a standardized method, form, or checklist should be completed for all inspections. The method, form, or checklist should include equipment, processes, and site activities, identification of the area and items inspected, hazard classifications, recommended corrective actions, the person responsible for those actions, and a date for expected completion, follow-up. Okay, this question is also going to be verified through interviews. Okay, and you'll notice, so where is that? 9.3 are corrective actions assigned to individuals and implemented as specified. 9.2, you are setting the expectation. 9.3, you are proving you met your expectation. Okay. The guideline 493, a review of past inspection methods forms checklist will confirm if the corrective action has been completed as assigned. Determine whether corrective actions have been completed in a timely manner, paying particular attention to unsafe acts and or conditions with the potential to cause injury or serious property damage. Or 2 points based on the receipt of completed documentation verifying that deficiencies noted during an inspection are corrected in a timely manner. And then award 2 points based on the majority of positive interview responses confirming that identified inspection deficiencies are corrected in a timely manner. Okay, so what do your staff think? Are things actually getting fixed properly? 9.4, this is that pre-use inspection question. Are specific methods, forms, or checklists used to identify deficiencies for pre-use inspections? Okay, a standardized method, form, or checklist should be completed for pre-use inspections. The method, form, or checklist should include equipment, tools, and/or vehicles, identification of the items inspected, recommended corrective actions, the person responsible for the action, and then again, a date for expected completion follow-up. Okay. And then you'll notice 9.5 is worded identical to 9.3. 9.5 pertains to 9.4 though. Okay, so 9.5 are corrective actions assigned to individuals and implemented as specified. A review of past pre-use inspection methods, forms, checklists will confirm if the corrective action has been completed as assigned. Okay, just going to check my Q&A for a second here. Yes, Juanita, we will be putting this recording up on YouTube. Judith, you're still having, oh no, that's done. What else do we have here? Are outside consultant site inspections accepted as acting as a safety representative for a company? No, so a safety representative, a site safety rep is on your site. That's a T4 employee. That is not a third-party health and safety consultant. Okay. Okay. Section 10, investigations and reporting. I don't think there's too much different here. 10.1, do workplace parties know their responsibilities and the reporting procedures? So the previous question for 10.1 was asking for a written policy. Here we're looking specifically for the responsibilities regarding an investigation process. You may have that listed out within that policy, so there might not be too much of a change here, but we're looking for a fairly clear idea as a third party looking in to your business, who's responsible for what in the event of some sort of investigation taking place. Okay. And then 10.5 here, and we're kind of just going through the changes here. 10.5, are investigation results and corrective preventative actions communicated to appropriate parties? We're going to verify, interview questions, verify that the company has formal documentation that clearly identifies roles and responsibilities of workplace parties for reporting incidents and conducting investigations in a timely manner, that all parties understand these roles and responsibilities. So however you're going to be communicating the results of a corrective action that has been implemented, obviously for the individuals that have a direct responsibility to fix something, we're going to be looking for how you communicated that. That may be within the within your report system. This could be communicated through toolbox talks or meeting minutes as well. Okay. Then 10.6 here, are the investigation reports completed according to the company policy and procedures? So the guideline, verify records of incidents, near misses, and investigation reports are completed according to company policy procedure. Both documentation and interviews must be confirmed to award a point. So we're looking for, this is an and question here. Okay, so again, just a bit of an overview. You've set the expectation. You've proved that you've set the expectation with the other questions here, and then 10.6 is just we're looking for proof that you've followed through and you've met your own expectations. Okay. All right. Section 11, emergency preparedness. Not much has changed within this particular section. We're looking for your emergency preparedness plans, obviously, equipment to be regularly inspected and maintained. Okay, 11.5, just picking something at random to make sure everybody's kind of there. Is an appropriate emergency communication system available? If you have access to a cell phone, landlines, if you are in the middle of nowhere, Manitoba, and you got satellite phones or some sort of contact system, those are the kind of things that we'd be looking for. 11.5 here. And then in addition to that, regarding an emergency communication system has been updated to include the requirement to communicate the emergency to on-site personnel as well as contacting outside agencies. So how are you making sure that we're getting emergency services to where they need to be, as well as communicating that to the rest of the staff? They may not be in the area that the emergency situation has taken place. So kind of a two-parter on that front. How are you communicating to your staff there's an emergency? And then how are we making sure that emergency services are going to be able to attend the site? 11.8 and 11.9 are now separated from previous question 11.2. So have employees received training in emergency procedures, roles, and responsibilities? That was the question. And now we have 11.8. Have employees received training in emergency procedures, roles, and responsibilities? Very, very similar. First aid, fire extinguishers, what specific emergencies emergencies do you deal with? And then 11.9, do employees know their roles and responsibilities? So an interview question there. Do people know what they're responsible for in the event of some sort of emergency? And then we have 11.12 here. Is relevant information regarding the emergency response plans communicated to the appropriate parties? Our guideline reads, verify through interviews that appropriate parties have a clear understanding of the relevant information regarding the emergency response plans. And then the interview question, particularly for the employees here, how have site emergency plans been communicated to you? This could be a site orientation. This could be an orientation within your business. This could be identified within your risk assessment process. This could be a conversation that you've had on the project. There's a lot of different ways that we can make sure that relevant information is being shared with the people that it applies to, appropriate parties. Section 12, statistics, records, and document control. Very similar as before. There's been some language change to the questions here. Let's take a look. So for 12.1, are approved and current versions of applicable documents readily available at the point of use? The old 12.1 question was asking for a policy outlining what basically a job description of what you're producing, who's got hands on it, where is it going, how are you organizing it. 12.1 is just asking, are you producing and collecting and keeping track of all the things that you're required to keep track of, right? So retention of records becomes important here. We're going to hold on to things for 5 years unless otherwise specified. If you have some things that are otherwise specified that you produce within your business, you can make it clearly, you can identify it clearly for 12.1 here, okay? 12.2 are relevant safety and health records kept as per legislative requirements, so you're just proving that you are keeping them. 12.3, does the company analyze current safety and health performance with past performance to identify trends as per required frequency? We had our safety summaries sheet within the 2021 COR audit. We've made some slight changes to that particular document. And so I've got an example of that coming up next here. Very, very similar information required for 12.3. And again, very similar information required for 12.4. The language has just kind of changed to reflect, to align with other provinces and territories here in Canada. So 12.4 are leading and lagging performance measured. What do we have here? So leading and lagging performance measures. Leading indicators are proactive measures that measure prevention efforts and can be observed and recorded prior to any kind of, let's call it unplanned event, disappointing outcomes, big bad things, injuries, okay? As opposed to safety lagging indicators, those are reactive measures. So that's documentation that we produce after an unfortunate outcome, a disappointing outcome, unplanned event, serious incident, dangerous occurrence, whatever it is that you're dealing with. That would be, I'll just bring it up here, your incident reporting process, essentially. Okay, so the top of this kind of document here is outlining orientations, tailgate meetings, risk assessments, inspections, and then the bottom is kind of indicating the incidents, nature of, and then the cause of those incidents. So we are looking for information that you produce to try and prevent things from happening. And then obviously those investigations take place after something has taken place. Okay, so health and safety committee meeting minutes kept for 10 years. That's correct, Maggie, yeah. So that would be something that's otherwise specified. Location of asbestos containing materials, I believe that's 30 years. Safety data sheets, 30 years. Your doctor is going to keep track of your audiometric testing for 10 years. So you'll have to identify exactly what it is that you need to produce and how long you're going to be keeping track of that. That's obviously something that CSAM can help you out with. Reach out to your regional safety advisor, our client service department, myself. We'd be happy to give you a hand identifying those particular items. Okay. 12.6 and 12.7 now clearly identify that the corrective action plan is from the current audit. So 12.6 are corrective action plans developed to address audit results. And then 12.7 are results and analyses communicated to relevant workplace parties as per company policy, procedure, or guidelines. So we're just looking for the current corrective action plan from the audit. Section 13, everybody will notice that there is now a document required for section 13. Outside of that, very, very similar. 13.1 are copies of relevant legislation posted and or readily available at each workplace as required. Please, if you haven't already, download the CSAM app. We will accept that as access to relevant legislation for your audits, for your site assessments, for accessing that information. 13.2, this is our documentation question. I have an example of something that we could use coming up next. I'll just read through all the questions. 13.2, does the management supervisor regularly refer to relevant legislation and regulations during job planning to ensure compliance? So what do we got here? The required documentation is 2 copies of job planning documents that show legislative review occurred. So how is it that you are planning out your jobs with health and safety in mind is kind of the intent of the question, okay? And then are personnel trained and aware of their legislated rights and responsibilities? That's our 4 rights question, as well as a duty that you may have under the Act. If you're a safety rep, if you're a supervisor, if you're a worker or a prime, you have duties and responsibilities under the Act. Okay, so let's take a look at this 13.2. I actually have a safe job procedure as an example here. Particularly, I would like you to focus in on this training required and guidance documents column, where we're referring Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health Regulation W210, First Aid Part 5, and then Personal Protective Equipment Part 6. So developing your procedures with particular regulations in mind, that is going to obviously include health and safety when you're producing these safe job procedures. Another idea that you might follow through with would be like a site safety plan for the entire project. What exactly are we dealing with? How exactly are we dealing with it, right? Risk assessments could be used here as well. Anything where you are taking legislation and applying it to your workplace. That's the idea. Okay. That being a new question, I want to stop for a second. Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, we'll take a look later on. Now, Section 14. Section 14, this one is titled Procurement and Contractor Management. So this is the new section. New in that it's the new Section 14, but we're asking for very similar information that we have been asking for. Okay, so 14.1. Does the company have criteria for the selection, evaluation, and monitoring of contractors and service providers? Okay, so this is the old 210 really. When selecting contractors or service providers, a company must include safety and health as an integral part of their activities. We're going to award 3 points based on the establishment of a criteria for the evaluation and selection of contractors or service providers. So contractor compliance declarations, agreements, some sort of communication back and forth. We're going to award 3 points based on the establishment of a system to regularly monitor contractors or service providers. So this is going to be done through safety meetings, inspection reports, orientations, anything where your contractors or you, the sub to a prime, are producing to share information outside of your company. That's kind of the idea for this particular question. Okay. A couple questions here. So, oh, sorry, Caitlin. So 14 for 13.2, can we also use a toolbox talk that and list the applicable ledge? Yeah, so as long as that conversation is about how legislation is affecting your workplace, that's exactly correct. Yes. We are, Frank, we are the Construction Safety Association of Manitoba. So yeah, we're looking for relevant legislation here in Manitoba. So that would be the Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health Act and its regulations. I can understand if you work outside of the province, as long as those regulations aren't like counteracting legislation here in Manitoba, for instance, I don't see too big of an issue with that. But if you can provide us with information based off of relevant legislation, and that would be Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health Act and regulations. Okay. Okay, what else do we have here? 14.4, is there a system in place to coordinate safety and health requirements, roles, and responsibilities when multiple contractors, employers are working under your control? Okay, so a company acting as the prime general contractor is required to develop, implement, and monitor a system to manage safety and health compliance at the worksite. A company acting as a contractor must be aware of their legal obligations to share required information that may affect the safety and health of any other person. Examples of information to be shared could include completed hazard assessments, inspections, site safety orientations, toolbox talk, safety startup meeting minutes, utility clearances, permits, safety data sheets, incident reporting, basically documentation from one company to another. Now, for those of you that maybe don't work underneath prime contractors or do not hire subcontractors to perform work for you, this is a requirement under 7.2 subsection 5, content of a program under the Act here. You must have some sort of system in place to deal with third-party contractors, whether you deal with them or not. Now, that being said, if you're bringing in companies even to clean your offices or things like that, technically speaking, a contractor is not just a trade or anything like that. A contractor, as defined by the Act, is a company pursuing a contract. Okay, so this is architects, these are engineers, these are the cleaners coming into your workplaces. A company performing work for you, you might want to have some sort of conversation. Now, depending on the risks associated with whatever it is that they're doing, cleaners coming in, or I think during Keith Steffano's conversation at the core companies meeting, somebody brought up somebody replacing jugs of water. Well, we'd be looking for, why did you hire that particular company, right? They probably do a pretty good job. Okay. Now, in the event that you do hire companies or you are hired by other companies, we give you a long list of examples of information that you can provide. Okay. So Madero, like I just said, you are required under content of a program 7.4 subsection 5 of the Act to have a system in place in the event of, basically. Okay. Again, reach out to your regional safety advisor, our client service department, myself would be happy to help you out. In fact, we do have a prime contractor course that we run. It's a half-day course. Myself, as well as a few other people here at CSAM, are running that course on a fairly regular basis. We'd be happy to give you a better understanding of things for sure. Okay. So as an example for this, this might be fairly similar. Oh, actually, there's one more thing I would like to bring up. 14.5 here. This is a bit of a new question. So does the company have a criteria for the selection, evaluation, and procurement of products that have the potential to create a hazard? Here we are talking about control products. This could be building materials as well. We would like you to have a think about the products that you're bringing in, making sure that you have access to safety data sheets for those particular products, as well as procedures for the use of the building materials that you're bringing in. Okay, so again, procuring products. Why are we bringing in these particular products as opposed to maybe something else? Well, this personal protective equipment is approved by CSA or ANSI, and those are accepted under the regulations. Okay. This is going to be fairly specific for your business. So you, the company, are going to tell us, the third party looking in, what your expectations are and how to follow through with them. Okay. What is subcontractor following prime contractor safety? Oh, okay. Prime contractor safety under prime supervision. Okay, so the prime is going to hire companies, and they're going to make sure that they have checked the boxes that they've established for themselves. So they are going to have criteria set for why they are going to hire a particular company. They're the professional people doing the professional things. They are going to provide them with trained staff. They're insured. They're going to procure products in a manner that the prime contractor wants them to procure products. Again, you are going to establish what that criteria is, or if you're a sub working for a prime, what kind of information are you being requested to provide? Adhesives would fall under that. Yeah, so any control product. Any kind of control product where a safety data sheet is being is produced for, there's labels on it, right? You're going to need to understand WMIS 2015, obviously, and then obviously be trained on those particular products. For 14.5, we're looking for you to have access to those safety data sheets, as well as processes for using that product or those building materials. Again, very similar to the old audit. We're looking for samples here, 2 to 4 documents, and you're going to tell us what your expectations are, and then we're going to be looking for you to meet your expectations. Okay. 14.6 is the criteria for selection, evaluation, and procurement of products been followed, right? So you've done the thing that you said you were going to do. Okay. Yeah, no worries. So again, as an example, we've got our occupational safety and health requirements for contracted work. What do we got here? There's a little bullet point kind of close to the third from the bottom. Contractor will procure hazardous products and ensure safety data sheets are made available on site, right? That it could be very, very simple, right? You're going to tell us what your expectations are. We are going to look for proof. Here you go, that you are meeting your expectations. So as required by all contractors of some random construction company limited, we will procure all hazardous products with the intent of managing the health and safety of all workers working with those products. This will include, but is not limited to, ensuring that all hazardous products, as well as building materials where risks have been identified, are accompanied by appropriate safety data sheets and safe work procedures. Okay, again, you will establish what your criteria is and follow through with it. Okay. With that being the new section, does anybody have any more questions for that? 14.6, could we show the work order using the selected control products? Yeah, absolutely, right? There's a reason why you're bringing in that product, correct? All right. Now, section 15, I'm going over my time, I apologize. Section 15, this is the Manitoba supplement. There is really no change to this particular section. This is the old section 14 Manitoba supplement. It is now the section 15 Manitoba supplement. We've actually dropped requirements for this particular section. I mentioned earlier in section 14 now, procurement and contractor management. We've actually taken questions from the previous audit, so 210 as well as 1425, the old 1425 and 1424, and place that into the new section 14, procurement and contractor management. And then also, in addition to that change for the Manitoba supplement, we have dropped the requirement for the terms of reference for your committees. Okay, so here we are looking for your safety reps or committee members to be involved with your company, risk assessment, tailgate inspection. We are looking for those individuals to be trained, have relevant training. Again, we've got a half-day course here at the Construction Safety Association of Manitoba if you need clarification on your duties and responsibilities as a committee or a safety representative. And then we're looking for proof that they are involved with the continuous improvement of the safety program, signatures on our corrective action plans, for instance, or taking part in the actual audit process itself. Okay, in terms of 15.1, observation question, is the name of the safety representative for the company posted? Do I know who those individuals are? Okay, again, not a whole lot of change here. 15.8, does the company have a hearing conservation program? We're still looking for those 3 documents. So the policy, audiometric testing for your staff every 2 years, biennially. And we are looking for a site sound monitoring. Please feel free to come and rent a decimeter from CSAM. You can borrow them for a week for free, and we will help you make sure that you are identifying whether or not you're dealing with noise hazards within your workplace. 15.7, does the company have a sign prominently posted? Let me see here. This was previously 14.2.7, but now includes the required signage to include the required information as outlined in our regulation. So section 2.18 and the current physical job site address. Okay, so the site signs that you purchase from CSAM, that's more than relevant information. We're looking for prime contractor, contact information, personal protective equipment requirements, as well as the relevant address for the particular project. Okay. 14.9, regarding written policy, directive and procedure in place on the subject of lockout tagout. So 14.9 or 15.9, sorry, it's hearing protection, including instructions on proper use and limitations made readily available to employees. Okay, that's just, it's not a documentation question, it's an observation and interview. Okay. Okay, next page over. Again, very, very similar information from the previous audit. We're looking for policies. Here's your musculoskeletal injury at 15.17. 15.18, does the employer have a written policy with respect to the prevention of harassment in the workplace? 15.20, does the employer have a written policy with respect to the prevention of violence in the workplace? And then 15.22, has a review and revision been made to the safety and health program? That is, again, an older question, 14.23, I believe it was. Again, asking for that corrective action plan. Okay. A couple questions here. Yeah, Trevor, that's going to be up on the website as well. So there's currently examples of these on the website. There's just been some slight changes, those bullet points that I was kind of bringing up. Okay, but we'll get you a copy for sure. Okay. Can train the trainer person be considered trainer on a job site? Depends on what it is, Judy. But yeah, typically if you have a decent understanding of how you the information that you want your staff to understand, and you have a bit of a plan in place to outline that information, and then on top of that, a system to prove that that you're happy with their understanding of it. That's perfectly fine. Yeah. Depends on some topics for sure, or equipment. If you're talking about equipment or control products, I would refer to the safety data sheets or the operator manual. Any changes CSAM and external audit timeframe? My busy time is spring, but my audit date is September. I find it difficult finding sites to audit during my down season. Oh, 1 second, Miss Shelby's gonna answer that one.
Hello, can everyone hear me? I hope. Thank you, Daniel, for that awesome presentation. I'm just going to butt in and hopefully answer your question there, Jeff. So if you're having issues with your audit time, you think it's super busy time, it's not great, just contact us prior to your audit. We can always move your month around just to make sure that you, one, have active job sites, because we do need that during audit season, but two, so it meets the needs of your company a lot better. We are very flexible here. We will help you out. Just another point in this audit, read the guidelines. Throughout the audit, we made sure any 4-point question, we really did say award 2 points, award 2 points. That is kind of a bigger change throughout the audit. But we did make sure those guidelines very clearly outline what it is we are looking for. And I know that's something we've always talked about in our auditor courses, but just to stress it even one more time, check those guidelines out.
Awesome, thank you. I got really quiet there. Oh, I apologize for that. All right, so just in summary, the general process for completing the audit has not changed. We're looking for documentation, observation, interviews. We're following the exact same process in terms of achieving COR and then maintaining your certification. Sections 1 through 13 are asking for very similar information as before, but the wording has changed to clearly align with the national COR accreditation standard. And then that section 14, that new section, procurement and contractor management, is asking for information that we previously were requesting in section 2, as well as the Manitoba supplement there, with the addition of that question regarding procurement of products. Okay. With that all being said, I will stop for questions. I do apologize for going over our time there. There was quite a lot there. But if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to stick around and answer those for you. Okay. We're cutting out. Uh-oh. Good thing I was at the tail end. How's the audio now? Is it coming through good? Okay now? Okay, good. All right, any questions, comments, concerns? Oh, I apologize for Shelby. Please check the guidelines was the big idea with Shelby. Please read the guidelines. This new audit is up on the website. In fact, it might even be an idea for us to hop out real quick. Oops. Let's pull this up. So let's make sure we're sharing the right screen. Oops. All right. Share. Okay. So this is the website, constructionsafety.ca. You would just go to the resources tab, click on downloads, and under the audit questionnaires and tools heading, the very first bullet point, you will see 2022 audit instrument, and that is the new audit instrument. Sarah, you can still use the old audit instrument until November 1st, 2023. The online audits tool, yeah, it will indicate which whether it's external or if it's a verification year, maintenance year. If you have any questions about that, Nick, just call the office here and we'll set it up for you. Adam, give us a call and we will adjust your time frame there. We'll find a way to give you a hand. I'm going with the last name. I'm assuming Ireland will be that'll be available January 2nd, 2023. The new online audit submission system. Currently, we don't have. I don't believe we've updated our website with the current the new updated material. If you do have any questions, I'm going to throw my email in the chat here, Daniel@constructionsafety.ca, and I will prepare myself for a bunch of emails. I can send some examples of things. Thanks for your time, everybody. That is all I have for you. I will, again, stick around and sift through some of these messages if there's any questions. But if you got to go, I apologize for going over our time here. Are you wanting safe job procedures for all safety data sheets on site or just a general? For the audit itself, we're looking for 2 to 4 copies of information. In terms of how you're using those products, you're going to want to have some sort of plan in place. So those safe job procedures are a great way of outlining those plans. The new binders are not available, Judy. They will be available in the new year. So we went through a few of the changes for the observation and interview documents. The questions have been reworded a bit, so you'll have to take a look at those for sure, Robin. But overall, the intent of the questions are very, very similar. Candace, yeah, it is possible to have your submission date changed. You're going to want to contact Shelby Haradaway, and she'll help you out with that. Diane, the new audit online submission will be available January 2nd, 2023. The documented checklist is available on our website already. You can see it there on the shared screen, constructionsafety.ca. Go to the resources tab, then the downloads button, and you'll find a title, Audit Questionnaire and Tools. It is the very first bullet point, 2022 Audit Instrument.